The world around us is moving at light speed. Technology is changing the way we live, work, and learn. The workforce is trying to keep pace with current market demands that seem to change as fast as they are created. The term 21st century skills is now a common expression that employers and educators talk about when referring to worker preparedness. Helping future generations plan for this rapidly changing marketplace is a challenge for educators. The Hatboro-Horsham School District is testing a pilot program called Hybrid or Blended Learning, which it hopes will prepare students for 21st century demands.
We're really preparing them for the 21st century workforce, really, if you think about it, and being productive citizens.
21st century skills that these students need to know for when they grow up and graduate.
In a world where our kids are connected in a way that no kids have ever been, anytime, anywhere before, we've got to have our students start to think of themselves as learners and learn from us a very clear sense of how they can learn without us.
This video highlights a few classrooms in the Hatboro-Horsham School District who experimented with hybrid learning on 3 levels of instruction: the elementary level, middle school, and high school levels.
The term hybrid learning gets used interchangeably in a lot of places with the term blended learning. And you can think about blended learning as a continuum where we might have a completely tech-free classroom like a lot of us grew up with. And then at the other end of the continuum, you might have completely off-site learning where the student's taking an online course outside of a classroom. So if you think about those as the 2 extreme ends of a blended or hybrid learning continuum, we're trying to find a balance somewhere in the middle.
The hybrid classroom model the Hatboro-Horsham schools adapted were divided into 3 different stations.
A teacher might have the flexibility to divide their class into thirds, say, and roughly a third of the kids might be operating with an adaptive software program. And then a second kind of learning station might be where students are collaboratively working with access to technology so that they could be doing research or reviewing specific materials that a teacher wanted to do, or collaboratively creating some kind of a digital project. And then a third station might look a little more traditional, where the teacher can specifically pull students to provide a lesson that's tied directly to the curriculum, or maybe she sees that those students are in need of some supplemental instruction on an important topic, or maybe those students need some work to kind of accelerate or enrich what they're doing.
Enriching the educational experience for all students is a major goal for the Hatboro-Horsham School District. Hybrid or blended learning is not a new idea in education. It's been around for over 50 years. Hybrid learning looks different today because technology has changed so much.
The 3-station model in the classroom isn't new. We've had teachers doing that for years. It's appealing to kids. It creates different spaces in the classroom. It creates movement during the course of a lesson. There's a lot of educational benefit to structuring that way. We wrote a lot of book reports, and today those things can be online presentations. They can be short video presentations. Kids can work on them together. They can edit them together. They can provide feedback. There are audiences for those sorts of things that never existed before. So I think what you're describing is not a new concept in education. We use the term differentiation to try and describe the process of determining and providing for every student a way or a path to learning that meets their specific needs. But what's happening in a blended learning or a hybrid learning environment is we're really trying to leverage technology to make that happen more efficiently for both the teacher and the student.
Now it's time to observe in more detail how each level of instruction implemented hybrid or blended learning. We begin at the elementary level.
These are different types of number stories you could use when you are doing the iPads today. When you are creating your own number story, you can model yours after these, or you can think of your own. Remember, you can use any operation you want.
Fourth grade teacher Megan Grimes used iPads in her classroom as the technology piece to her hybrid learning model. iPads were used in a variety of ways for math and language arts.
I chose to use iPad devices because I thought that that would be engaging for the children. I know that a lot of them use them at home, so I thought that they would be able to pick up on the skills needed to use them. So I use them during my math time, and what they do is they either use it in an independent station where they will use a online curriculum called 10 Marks, and that curriculum walks them through different things that they need to either work on or challenge them. We also use it for like a collaborative station in the blended, and they can do activities like the one today where they wrote number stories and then they shared them with the class just to practice.
There are 25 dogs and they got 35 more. How many dogs in all?
Like these girls just did, students paired up and created their own number stories, or in effect, their own math questions on the iPad. Later, they got to hear their questions presented in front of the class.
There were 11 trucks in a parking lot. Each truck had 12 pounds of furniture. How much pounds of furniture are there in all?
Okay, so what I would like you to do is use your board and try and solve that problem. Go ahead. They love to be able to put it onto the smartboard and share with the class. They really like to be the teachers, and they like to have their problems or their work shown. So I think that that is really engaging for them, and when they're working independently, that piece, knowing that they're going to share it with the class, is one that motivates them to work harder or do better on what they're working on.
You are going to insert the photos into EduCreations, okay, and I'll briefly show you what to do. And then you are going to record your metacognition that you and your partner are thinking about using those thinking stems.
We've been talking about students' metacognition, what they think about when they're reading, and so the steps were that they were supposed to use a wordless picture book and look at the details in the pictures and explain what they were thinking. So they used the iPad to take a picture. Well, I'm sorry, I had the pictures already taken, and they inserted them into EduCreations, which is an app, and then they were able to record their voice explaining what they were thinking when they looked at the picture.
On this page, I'm thinking that the frog is having a fun time up in the air from the storm that washed him up there.
After students recorded their stories, they were able to share their recorded picture book with other classmates.
My ultimate goal is for them to be able to do this independently as a center without my help. So I really wanted to assess them on how they're able to navigate through all the technology. And I wanted to use Dropbox, which is another app where the students can share things with me wireless or electronically. So I wanted to see also how they are able to utilize that. But I'm also checking their reading, and through the recording I can also check how they are working together because of how they're talking with each other. So there was a couple things to assess there.
iPads were a central component to Megan's technology piece to hybrid learning in both math and language arts. She was able to divide the classroom up into smaller pods because of it.
Blended learning has 3 different stations, as was seen today. So one is the teacher-led station where students are still getting that teacher instruction but in a smaller group. That allows me to differentiate and challenge those students who need the challenge but slow down for the students who need me to explain things more. Second group is the collaborative group where I do activities for them to work together, talk together, learn to get along, and try to problem solve together. And then the third group is that independent station, which in math we're using a program called 10 Marks, and it has, they've pre-tested and it has ranked their skills as far as what things they need extra work on and what things that they can do well and need a challenge for.
Well, it looks like the students in Megan Grimes' class got the most out of the hybrid learning model, using it successfully in teaching both math and language arts.
If the wording was, what's the exact length, could you determine it? No, you can't. We don't know enough information for that.
Keith Valley Middle School teacher Mike Harmon used hybrid learning to help his students learn geometry. Mike used the three-part model used in other Hatboro-Horsham schools for his class.
We have 3 groups that we kind of rotate through. Typically there's one on the computer, there's one partners, and then there's one that I work with more on a smaller scale. Usually I have about 8 kids in front of me, 8, 9 kids. Get a little bit more one-on-one action and connection with the kids.
Homework, it's the angle that's opposite as long as it's not you.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Q, P, and then R.
There you go. It is a new idea, this hybrid learning and connecting the computer aspect to some group activities, and they're getting a little bit of everything. Individual work, partner collaboration, as well as technology involvement as well.
During the 2 days cameras were in Mike's classroom, students watched a video from Khan Academy or watched a Hinge theorem video. If students were not watching a video, they were collaborating and helping each other figure out problems.
I just listed the angles and then the sides.
Oh, I see.
The third part of the hybrid learning model mentioned by Mike is the traditional classroom approach, where the teacher gives the instruction.
Okay, so this changes to 24 inches and 40. So it's going to be
Students from Keith Valley Middle School had mixed reactions to hybrid learning. Most liked moving to different stations as well as the technology piece to hybrid learning, but not everything about it was perfect.
I don't know if it's better, like sometimes it is, but you can't really ask direct questions. So I mean since most of us know how to use the technology well enough, it's pretty easy.
It's probably easier to listen to the video because it kind of gets old listening to a teacher and all. So watching the video is kind of like a change, so it makes things more interesting.
I think definitely the interest level is increased. I don't see as many kids just sitting, slacking off or, not doing what's going on. I can be more on top of kids. My kids are so connected with technology these days, and it's so an instant world now. And if they're not constantly moving and constantly doing something, it's almost like they don't know what to do. So this gives them that ability to keep moving and keep going and learning and moving at the same time. I see that as a benefit for my own kids.
Now on to the high school level, where we looked at 2 hybrid learning classrooms. Math teachers Nicole Dow Mikulski and Ben Bass both utilized the 3-station model for each of their classrooms.
There's the 3 stations. Group 1, we start at the independent or the direct teacher station, direct learning station it's called. The direct learning station with me, I usually go over any homework questions that there may be. I recap whatever the previous lesson was from the day yesterday that they usually watch in a video. I do extra practice so I feel comfortable moving on in the material in the other stations. It's a way of assessment for me, an informal assessment and sometimes even formal assessment in my station. Then the second group is the collaborative station, where I have them working and communicating with their peers on some type of activity. And then the independent station, today specifically, they use Math Excel, which is an online practice software, to practice the parallel lines and transversals theorems, which again, it's getting them prepared for, they have a test tomorrow. Usually we'll use Math Excel. If they watch a video, they'll do Math Excel practice after that.
This semester I'm piloting the hybrid learning instruction model. We're using a 3-station rotational model. The 3 stations are collaborative, independent, and direct instruction. So during direct instruction, students are working with me. They work with their instructor, have an opportunity to have face-to-face with the teacher. And it's nice because it's a small group learning session. Typically you have 8 or 9 students working with you at a time. While that's going on, you've also got a collaborative station in which you have a group of 8 or 9 students working on some assignment together. It can be an assignment where they need to collaborate, or it could be an assignment where they're there to collaborate with each other if that will help them. And then we've also got the independent station where students are typically working on an assignment which might be, in the case of CP Geometry, a Math Excel assignment in which it's really like a textbook problem that has been converted to an online problem in which students will receive feedback immediately on whether they did the problem correctly or incorrectly, and if they did it incorrectly, they can ask for help and they get an opportunity to do it again.
The technology piece in both math classes were laptops and used in the independent learning stations. Both high school math teachers endorsed the use of technology as a teaching tool if used correctly and if the technology worked properly.
I think the biggest barrier to hybrid learning being successful would be not backing it with the technology and the software that's needed to make it successful. If you're going to ask students to work independently without being able to communicate with the teacher or possibly even another student, you've got to have technology that's reliable, and you've got to have software that does exactly what you need it to do. And the school has been very supportive in terms of letting us choose and evaluate software that we feel is good for our classes.
The students use technology. I mean, they are digital native. They're used to working with technology. Their communication system with one another is all through technology, whether it's texting, Facebook, Twitter, whatever they're using. So we had to keep up with them. You know, the traditional pen paper isn't working anymore. It's not interesting to them. And then being able to get on the computer, use videos to learn a lesson, and then having those resources to go back to study. They study in a different way than students 10 years ago studied. They're not used to, you know, sitting down with their notebook and reading and rewriting their notes. They're going to computers.
For most students and teachers from all levels of instruction, the three-station hybrid learning model has received rave reviews.
I think the hybrid learning class here at Hatboro-Horsham for CP Geometry is really one of the best things. It's a very good course, especially with Mr. Bass. He puts the notes on YouTube, so you can actually go back and rewind as many times as you need, and the diagrams are already up there.
Well, I like it more than reading the math, because it gets to, like, in math you just get to go on websites and answer questions.
Yeah, we could go on, like, Fast in Math, and like all we do on reading on the iPads, we just
record our voices. I like doing that. So I just think reading might be better for me.
Yeah, it's really fun because we can do different things on the iPad that maybe we can't do on the computers or on books, like recording and like touching it and drawing and stuff.
It's fun because, I mean, like, you can explore on the iPad, explore the different games, and explore how, like, if you don't have any iPads at home, explore how they work.
I hear things from students like, you know, I love this, and the class goes so much faster, and I learned it. I love being able to pause the videos, and, you know, it works great for me.
When I first was introduced to hybrid, my thought was, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to do it. And now I'm in such a groove, it's working really well. Now this is geometry. Geometry is different than Algebra 2. Algebra 2, I don't see how it would fit. But again, I'm not in the moment yet. You know, in the original moment, my original thoughts of geometry was, oh no. But now I'm like, oh right, this works.
Yeah.
Yes, you add them, set them equal to that angle there, right.
The rollout to hybrid learning in the Hatboro-Horsham School District is too early to determine its success or failure. Right now, it's new and exciting, and most of the students are responding favorably toward it. The results from hybrid learning will have to wait.
We're going to continue to experiment with some of those programs and see how our students are responding. Are they learning as much as we hope they will? Do they find it engaging? You know, and also with our teachers in terms of, is this truly creating the kind of flexibility in their classrooms that we hope that it will?
It is really hard to measure the results, and I think after it's over, it's still going to be hard to measure the results. But I would say anecdotally, you know, I'm seeing some things that are really interesting. I'm seeing some students are really, you know, picking up skills and developing.
We certainly have some assessments in place. We'll look at what kids know prior to the program. We'll look at how much they've learned at the end of the trial periods that we're going to set up. So there will be some measurements and assessments that we do to see if this is in fact as effective as we hope.
The Hatboro-Horsham School District is always looking for new and better ways to engage its students. Hybrid learning may provide the flexibility for teachers attempting to connect learning to all their students. So far, it's off to a promising start.
Some kids learn a little bit differently. I think them learning one way on the video and then me going over it another way gives them two views as how they could learn something. And that one-on-one time or that small group time allows them to ask questions about what they learned in the video or what they didn't understand and what they didn't get. And I can really tailor it to make sure that every kid's understanding what's going on.
I would hope that technology would continue to grow as a bigger tool for teachers and for students to use in the future because it makes it more interesting. It makes the lessons more interesting. It makes the engagement of the students. They are more interested when it comes to using the technology.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of professional development. It's a lot of out-of-school prep and collaboration, and some people just aren't there and are not ready for it. But I think that if there's teachers out there who want to change and who want to be innovative and use technology maybe more than they ever have, I think this is for them.
The goal here is to create something for our teachers and our students that creates a lot of flexibility for them in terms of being able to customize learning. So, you know, all of the indicators that tell us that those things are happening hopefully will be positive.
How did you guys? Oh my God, I got right.